evening, Cubes of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joining me this Tuesday as a co-host, we have none other than Steve the Voice White. Steve, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm freaking alive. The drugs have done their job. I'm alive.
And I'm sure we'll see Rob pop in here at some point, but for the moment, let's get straight to our guest of honor for this evening. We have Phil from Philtastic Comics and Art. Phil, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Doing well, man. All right, so like we usually do, just give the quick 2 minutes on who you are, what your channel's about. Maybe mention that you're on a road to something, and there's some giveaways that people can enter, and then we'll say hi to the chat, and we'll get to our community sizzle reel.
Thank you. My name is Philtastic. I've been here on YouTube for it'll be 3 years in March, and I like to talk about really what we all do: comics, streaming, and other kind of nonsense. I've been collecting comics since I'm about 14 years old, and I have a goal to reach 1K, 100,000. Let's just raise it right now. 1,000.
Why the hell not? Go to 1 million. Come on.
There we go. Let's do it. Biggest show on YouTube, period. And like Gary mentioned, we are doing a bit of a giveaway, the hashtag Road to 1K giveaway, where both you and people who you may refer to my channel get an entry to win possibly a big box of comics. It increases every week.
Excellent.
Yeah, that might be shipped in very many parts once you get there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We might just cross country it or something, or maybe somebody down the street will win.
A box a week for 6 weeks.
There you
Oh,
go.
all right. Let's go say hi to our chat. We have Travis. How you doing tonight, Travis? Nice to see you, buddy. We have Kevin in here. How you doing, Kevin? Nice to hear that you're feeling better, buddy. We have James Las Cruces in. Good evening, Las Cruces. Nice to see you, sir. We have Joe, Anachronic Comics, who's going to catch us on the rewind. Thank you very much, Joe. We have the OG herself, Miss Tina Carrington. How are you doing this evening, Tina? Thanks for stopping in. Sorry, my allergies are bugging me, so I'm getting through it at the moment. We have Paul from Psychedelic Comics. Good evening, sir. How you doing? We have ComicCapCollectibles. Richard, how you doing tonight, sir? Psychedelic Comics, who we already saw. He says hello. Okay, he's just saying hi to Kevin. And we have Chuck Hensey. Good evening, Chuck. Nice to see you, sir. And we are going. Phil's Treehouse. All right, he has changed his name to P2, so we're not getting the Phil's mixed up. All right, I ran out of Panera. All right, here we go. Sorry, I'm just. What's that? Jerry the Jitterbug. Good evening, Jerry. Nice to see you. One of my favorite people.
Jerry. Yeah, love his videos.
Mr. DVH. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you, buddy. I got to go check out his last couple. I might have a chance to catch up on videos this evening. Mr. Mark Andrews. How you doing tonight, sir?
Mark.
I want to tell you too, Gary, by the way, I keep meaning to mention this. I don't know if I have. When I was going back and just looking at old videos in your channel, Mark's hot seat video, I don't know if it's because of the flames or something. It looks like he's from like the Die Hard poster or something. That serious look on it too. It's like, wow, that's a great looking.
Well, he's the Canadian Hans Gruber. Frog Fowler, how you doing? Brad, how you doing?
My White Walker brother.
Right.
He's really in the White Walking. Holy crap, man.
Easy, Steve. He's telling you.
Easy. Take it easy.
All right. So before we get to your first books, Phil, we're going to do the thing that I've been starting on my channel, the hashtag Community Sizzle. And our video tonight is from ComicCapCollectibles. So in his own words, shouting out himself, without further ado, here is the sizzle hashtag Community Sizzle Reel for Capcom Collectibles. Comic Cap Collectibles. I am going to figure out my speech pattern at some point this evening.
So you think you're some type of like YouTube influencer or something, right? Like you think you're something important, right? No, not really. I think I'm just a comic book collector that's on YouTube. Oh, a collector. What, because you have a couple slabs, you think you're a collector? I guess. I mean, if you 232 is a couple. Listen, just because you have a couple garbage slabs doesn't make you a collector. Don't tell me. You probably also have like 3 long boxes of like dollar bin books, right? Actually 34 long boxes, and I don't really value a comic by what I paid for it. Yeah, whatever. So all right, you have a few comics. And over 300 Funko Pops. And a few Pops. And a ton of vintage Star Wars stuff from the 70s. And over 500 vintage video game cartridges. Dude, okay, I get it. You're not an influencer. You're not even a collector. At this point, you're just a straight up hoarder. Well, thanks. That's the nicest thing anyone has ever told me. I appreciate that.
All right,
Okay.
and that was Comic Cap Collectibles. His links are in the description below. Please go sub him up if you haven't. He's got a lot of good stuff over there. We had a few people pop in. Mark Andrews saying that he is not the Canadian Hans Gruber, but you know, it hasn't been proven that he isn't yet. So we got Marcus. How you doing tonight, Marcus? Nice to see you, sir. We have Milt popping in. Good evening, Milt. Nice to see you. And I think we're good. All right. So, Phil, we're back to you, sir. Let's start out with your first book.
Well, I'm going to warn everybody tonight. I decided I'm going to show things that I don't think I've ever shown before.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
That's what we like to hear.
that came out strong. Well, hold your horses, because that means you're not going to see some of like the big books I've shown before. Like you're not going to hear about my wife, my wife giving me my Hulk 181. You're not going to hear about my X-Men #1 or my Dave Cockrum signed X-Men. You're going to hear about, I think the beauty about this is that most of these things are attainable. Like if you like this stuff enough, you can go out and probably find them pretty cheap right now, but they have some significance to me. So that's what I'm sticking to.
All right. Let's see that strawberry shortcake one.
Oh, Care Bears.
There we go.
Care Bears won.
Yeah. So
Hey, I would take a Care Bears one. Are you kidding me?
So some of you will be interested, some will be underwhelmed, but there you go.
It's all about the books being personal. That's all it's about. Value has no monetary value has no value here.
Mark says one of 33 books.
No, I'm proud to say I kept it to 10. It was like, that's it.
Holy crap.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
We can follow instructions. Excellent. See, community, that can happen.
Occasionally I listen. Well, the first thing I'm going to show is a book that I was introduced to. I'd heard about a lot. I was introduced to, at the start of the pandemic, I was taking some online courses through the Joe Kuber School, and I was taking a writing class. And the teacher, Amy Chu, who's written for Marvel and DC, recommended everybody get this book. I got this on the cheap and read it in one day. It's such a great book, not just for learning to write, but it really kind of changed the way I will read a comic and my approach, I guess, to reading is the best way to say it. And it kind of just changed my outlook on what a well-written story should look like when it comes to comics. And that's understanding comics.
Oh, okay.
Holy crap. I've never even heard of that.
Really?
That's cool. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember.
So it's basically a guidebook on how to read a comic book.
Well, here's the thing. Kind of like Kramer's coffee table book. It's a graphic novel about how to write and understand narrative art.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And it's a nice, quick and easy read.
All black
obviously,
and white.
Yeah, you don't need to be like a super big comic fan to even understand it. It's just so well done. And
won an Eisner. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, they were pushing this, I guess when it came out back in the day in Wizard. But yeah, you can get this pretty cheap. Amazon, I think I got it used.
Nice. That's cool though.
That is
Yeah.
neat.
Well, and like that kind of thing's important too, because you can tell when somebody's doing art for a comic and they don't understand how to draw that art to the flow of the story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it, one of the things too, it's one of the very first things that they explain, and I never thought about it this way. In a film, if you want to show a guy, picking up a glass of water, hey, look, you can do it like this. In a comic, you've got a lot of decisions to make to see, how many panels am I going to use for this guy to just go like this,
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that motion can take a little bit. Yeah. That's interesting.
All right, cool start, Phil. All right, number 2,
Wow.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming out of the gate hot.
So these are kind of two. These I should say have to deal with. These next two I should say have to deal with when I was on the hot seat about a week and a half ago. At this point, maybe 2 weeks. I'm on paternity leave. I can't tell time. One of the earliest comics I read when I was a kid, one of the characters I followed, should say, were the Ninja Turtles. Like pretty much everybody around my age. I didn't go back and get any of the early stuff, of course, but I had a fair amount of. I still have them actually. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures, the movie adaptations, and I did have some of the later Mirage stuff that I probably had no business reading as a kid. But one thing I did get were the printed graphic novels. This is book number 2, and I'm going to turn around a second because I busted this out a couple of years ago. I went to Garden State Comic Fest right here in New Jersey, and Kevin Eastman was the guest of honor. And I don't know if I could get this on here.
Oh, it's got a signature and a remark. Nice.
Yeah.
That is cool. In gold.
Yeah. And this was a well-read and well-loved graphic novel.
I almost thought it was a coloring book for a minute.
No. That's natural yellowing.
And I like the oversized format of it too. It's nice.
Yeah, that's something they like doing.
Yeah. And look, when I was a kid, I didn't think about, okay, I have to preserve this. I'm talking like 8, 9 years old. Like this was in my backpack. This came with us on vacations to the town pool. So it's not going to any pools now, but I don't know. It was just cool to get that signature.
Yeah, I love the signatures on books.
Yeah.
Not a big Turtles guy though, so So sorry, Mark. You can suck it with that
I
one.
did like
so
the Mirage Turtles because that's what I love the more serious storytelling. It was the art was a lot more raw back then, and it had an edge to it.
Definitely. But I mean, I'll say this: I stopped Ninja Turtles. I don't know how long ago, and then a couple weeks ago on Between the Lines, there was a topic about Ninja Turtles. And I found out I was like, I think the one person left possibly on YouTube who hadn't read The Last Ronin. And I wound up getting it cheap on Black Friday. And I was like, oh, wow, you're right back in there. So if you're a fan of those Mirage era Turtles, Gary, if you haven't read it, that's a good read.
Nice.
That's cool.
I know that's a controversial take for everybody. The Last Ronin is a good read, but there you go.
I don't know. Most people I know loved it.
I know. I was trying to be, I can't think. I was trying to be ironic.
Yeah, I just remember like so many different covers for that too. And that was one of those books where people were sending it out and getting a lot of 9.9s.
Oh crap. Gary, if you watched Very Gary, he kept doing unboxings of that for like weeks. And then half the cases were cracked because of course the CGC cases are crap in the magazine size. They should be come on, it's a side book.
They're better now. They upped them. They're still not as good as the CBCS magazine.
No, those CBCS cases are freaking like. What'd you say they were, Gary? They were like.
Oh yeah, they're bricks.
Steel traps. They're bricks.
Yeah, so look, I've never seen one in person. Never seen a magazine size in person for them.
There's the CBCS ones are solid, man. You could club a baby seal with those suckers.
That's what
that should be their new slogan. Yeah, they came out with this big press release the other day. Hey, you can't open ours. They should say, hey, CBCS, we don't pick up the phone, but if you have to take somebody out,
we got the slab for you, man. It'll double as a shank.
There you go.
All right. Now you said your third book was related to this book, right? Or are both of these number 2?
No, this ties into our hot seat discussion
Okay.
from a little while back. So I'm a big X-Men fan. Yeah, you'll be seeing X-Men a couple times here. And you had asked me what was the one story that kind of really hooked you in. And at the time I said Fatal Attractions. And then about a day later it hit me. I was like, no, that wasn't the first big crossover I read. That was probably one of the better ones I read as a kid, but it wasn't the first big one. And I should say to everybody too, as my wife will tell you, I'm not the most organized person. So in a lot of these cases, I'm going to say, here's a book from that run, or here's a collected edition of that book. I do have the originals of most of these books, of not Ninja Turtles, but like I said. But anyway, the first story I read was The Extinction Agenda. And
okay.
No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. I grabbed the wrong one. It was.
You got some 90s goodness there. The foil.
Let's do this. It was the
There you go.
Executioner's Song. So.
Okay. Executioner's Song. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was big back then.
You know what? I want to reread because as a kid, I was like, oh wow, this is all cool. As an adult, I don't know if it's just my sensibility just coming back to it now. Just like, why didn't Cable just say, hey guys, I know it looked like me, but I really have an evil clone. Like, I feel like that would have cut out at least 8 issues in this whole thing.
That would have fixed everything.
Yeah. But look, that, like I said, it was 90s goodness. I remember they all had trading cards included. I think Jim Lee was off by then, so you had Jay Lee art, which was cool in it. And I remember it was my first exposure to a lot of the characters on X-Force and X Factor as well. But yeah, so not this one, but kind of like it.
Right, similar. Some of the same characters are in it.
Now, was that,
you can fix this in editing, right?
Is that kind of like an omnibus, or is it it's just got a collected of certain issues for that run?
Yeah, no, it's a trade paperback of. I grabbed the wrong one.
Right.
So this is just a trade paperback I was looking for,
Okay.
but it's kind of sort of like this.
And the Executioner's Song ran through all the annuals, if I remember correctly.
No, I think they were all regular issues.
Were they? Okay, I know. What was the one of them? Maybe the Phalanx one, or I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, the Phalanx. Yeah.
But I thought Executioner's Song was crossed over into a couple of the annuals, like X Factor and stuff like that.
It might have, maybe it touched a couple of the annuals, but it was through the regular X-Men, X-Force, and X Factor series. And I think, and probably, because there were 2 X-Men books at the time. So Uncanny and X-Men. So you're talking about 4 titles at the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, back then that was a big crossover. Today that's a mini crossover.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And today they would have like 3 or 4 issues where it'll have the big, title bar or something on the cover, and then you open it up and it's like, oh hey, did you hear what's going on over there? Yeah. And then that's the most that's connected to the story at all.
Right. Yeah, this cheap tie-ins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the 90s, I'm going to show you now. This is actually going to be a video I've been meaning to make for a long time. That I don't know if he's here. Yeah, I know this.
Okay.
I don't know if he's here, but many of the hobgoblins suggested it after I said that this is my favorite Spider-Man villain, and I think a villain from the 90s who nobody's really done quite well, but I think is due his own limited series. This isn't his first appearance, but this is the best cover with him, in my opinion. Cardiac.
Oh yes, I see. Cardiac is one of my favorite Spidey villains too, and like he's just not used ever.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think it's just they don't know how to use him. Like the last time I saw him pop up, he was in Jason Aaron's run of Jane Foster Thor.
Right.
And it was I'll say this, it wasn't Jason Aaron's best work in my opinion, but it was like they had put together a team of characters with medical backgrounds, and he kind of screwed them all over. It was like, but really,
he always had his own agenda.
Yeah, but you know what? Like this, that particular story just kind of took the edge out of him completely. But if you think about it, he is so much deeper than saying, oh, he's a hero or he's a villain. You know, he's one of those characters that could really go either way. He just doesn't care who's in his way. And you look into his background. I actually, in that writing class I was telling you about, I wasn't thinking when I started taking the class, and I was like, oh, I'm going to write a script for a Cardiac series. And then at the end of it, I was like, wow, the teacher said, this is a great story. Too bad you can't do anything with it because you don't own it unless you pitch to Marvel. And I did take a pitch class actually afterwards with Dan DiDio, and he was like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, oh, wow, the former head of DC likes this. But yeah, I mean, look, if you guys are unfamiliar, I'm looking at the chat at the same time. I see Psychedelics that he's not familiar. He basically has the smarts of Iron Man, but none of the cockiness. He was really kind of focused on striking back at these corporations who, for whatever reason, have made life-saving medicines and whatnot unaffordable, or just don't make them because they're not profitable. And I mean, come on, think of the way of the world today we have with inflation and, you know, class battles and whatnot.
Right. And he always got overshadowed because he came out at the same time as Carnage, and Carnage was like the big thing. So he never popped.
Exactly. I mean, look, yeah, he's got a goofy costume. Not many characters can pull off both shoulder pads and a cod piece, but yeah, and he has no nose, at least in his mask. I think if he had a nose, that would have been it. He would have hit it.
Oh, 344 mark.
Yeah. So he's right in there in those Carnage issues.
He kind of looks like Apocalypse.
A little bit. Yeah, like a leaner Apocalypse. I'll say this though. Dan Slott, I think, did him really well during his first Superior Spider-Man run. So if you haven't checked that one out, that's definite one you should read.
Wow. And he would be a villain that would make a lot of sense today with the medical ties and everything that's going on. He would be perfect in a film.
Exactly.
Perfect during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, look, they talked today. I think Sony put out that they are revisiting that El Muerto movie without Bad Bunny. I was like, why? This is so much more of an interesting character.
Nice. Cardiac was a good one. See, that was always a sleeper favorite of mine.
Yep, never heard of it.
I'm trying to think. I was going to just mention. Oh, you know what? When I pitched a script for Cardiac, I said, and I don't think this has been really approached before. You think about it, he's a doctor. And yes, we have Dr. Doom, we have Dr. Strange, whatever.
They all have advanced degrees.
Exactly. they're all learned gentlemen.
Yes, they are.
Very well read. But, I mean, he's a medical professional, so you have to take an oath not to do any harm. But at the same time, you're a vigilante. So you're like, okay, I have to go out and beat the crap out of somebody. How do you justify this? Do you look at it like you're cutting out a tumor, like you're cutting out a cancer or something? And I don't know. That was just an interesting.
Probably, and just kind of like Matt Murdock does with his Justice, right?
I object. Crack.
Right, because Matt's got his Hippocratic oath, but then he's doing the opposite as Daredevil a lot of the times.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's dancing on that line.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next,
Yep, go ahead, bud. Number 5.
Okay. And I just realized this actually ties into our hot seat episode as well. This is not the issue, but if you recall, you asked me about who my favorite artists are, and I named a couple, but my favorite modern day artist is Mike Del Mundo. And I pointed out his run on Elektra. I know that you asked me to put up a little post on IG with the exact panel I'm talking about. I instead just kind of showed everybody on a video I just put up the other day. But I figure, let me show you one of the great covers that he's done from that run. This is not the issue. I couldn't pull that one out. But really,
nice.
All of the art in this Elektra run is fantastic.
That's intense. That's super intense.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
crap.
The writing, I'll say this, it's either great or meh. There's nothing in between, but the art, hands down, the best. Again,
The eyes sell that cover.
oh yeah.
Yeah, almost like a Jenny Frison look to it, but those are way intense. Like, holy crap, man.
No, and Del
That's
Mundo,
cool.
though, like if you look in the very first issue, there's an excellent splash page where Elektra is just kind of dancing around different ninjas, all in one page. But they kind of make it almost look like she's doing like a dance performance. So it becomes like this kind of a bloody ballet dance. And really, when Del Mundo takes these big brush strokes and whatnot, you get that motion in it. You get that activity. You get that liveliness. It really jumps off the page. The panel, though, I was talking about, let's see, I didn't prepare. I do have a framed picture of it over there, but you can just go and check out the video. I guess I tagged Gary in to see it. The panel I was talking about specifically, to me, shows, I think, the apex of modern day narrative storytelling, in my opinion, because you're showing not only the thoughts of the character, not only the actions, but also the emotions, and it's just so masterfully done.
Nice. Its own ballet, huh?
Exactly. There you go. And Del Mundo's done a lot of great work since, but this is still my favorite. And he's got a lot of humor to his stuff too. If you look him up online, he's got a great sticker of Galactus just taking a bite out of the globe like it's an apple.
My favorite work of his is when he did X-23. Like,
Yeah.
he's done some amazing shots of her.
I agree.
And that was the first time I'd seen that cover, Phil. That's a great cover.
It is.
But you know what, Gary, you would really like his stuff on Weird World, because you're dealing with kind of a Conan-like environment.
It is. I missed that series. It's one of the ones I want to go back and get.
Yeah, I mean, they had the one during Secret Wars and the one right after. They're both good. I think the one right after Secret Wars, and I think it's only like a 4 or 5 issue series. The storytelling was a lot better in that one. It was a lot more of a personable story.
Yeah, I think they're just hard to. I don't think there was a big print run on the Weird Worlds. It's one of those odd properties from Marvel where I think they just bring it up every now and then to keep the license.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had the Marvel premiere that it was in, and I have Weird World in a couple Marvel fanfares as well. But that one, I think I've seen one issue in the wild.
Well, do you have the Unlimited app? Well, I was going to say, do you have the Marvel Unlimited app? But you know what? With Del Mundo's work, he's one of those artists, kind of like Peach, where, yeah, you can kind of see it when you look online, but when you look at it in print, it's that much better. Like, I would kill to see the original stuff.
Yeah, you got to see it live.
Especially from the older days, just the what the paper adds to the art is something great. It's just not smooth. The texture just kind of fits it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hey, good evening, Three Good Nerds. Check them out too. Every Tuesday night, they're having a show with Nick's Kicks and Comics. So make sure you guys are tuning into that before you tune into our show. And that's usually live at 7:00 Eastern time, real time.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
But I got a couple lecture series. That's one I was never able to get, but that cover alone is just amazing.
Oh, look,
and it says a lot just with the simplicity, the eyes and the size, and just the glare. Like, you look at that, and Elektra means business.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying all that pink, and it's still the intensity of it, even though it's all pink.
Well, and it's appropriate to the character. It's not just her posing in like a Barbie pose on the cover, like a lot of artists will do these days, where it's just a glamour shot. That's actually.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pertinent to who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Elektra, to me, and I'll give you guys this giant asterisk. I have not read the recent Daredevil runs where she's basically Daredevil now. But, I mean, since she was killed and came back, I feel like writers have really kind of struggled with really writing her. I mean, she's been a little bit more than just a plot device, at least in my opinion. But this story really, it really nails the character. I think more so than anything we've seen since Miller or Sienkiewicz.
Wow.
And they had the two Ultimate runs with her and Daredevil, the two 4-issue.
Oh, those
minis.
are terrible. I hated those.
Yeah.
I hated those.
But I'm hoping since they're bringing back a lot of the cast of Daredevil that they bring back Elodie Young as Elektra. I thought she was really well cast in that role.
See, she was just okay for me. I don't know.
Well, I like she was kind of quiet, she was kind of mysterious, and she had presence when she showed up.
Yeah, I'll say this though. I didn't finish Defenders. It kind of my wife and I were both watching it. We just kind of got to the point where it was like, they're in this Chinese restaurant a really long time. It was like watching Seinfeld.
I was one of the people that liked the Defenders.
Sitting in the diner.
To each their own, yeah.
Yeah, it worked for me. All right, number 6, bud.
Okay. This is one. This is kind of a love-hate relationship, I guess you could say, with this particular slab. I guess I'll tell you a little bit of the story first. Unknown Comics. You know, I think everybody's familiar with the website. So basically, if you want something new, I guess, from David Nakayama, he basically does all their exclusive variants and whatnot. One of the first times I ordered from them, they had this really cool looking cover and like, hey, you can get this at a 9.8 gold label. We'll send it right to you. So great. Ordered it. Waiting. And, CGC's slowdowns happen and everything. And then it's the first time I had dealt with unknowns. I was like, let me call them. Like, oh, yeah, no, we sent it to CGC. It's probably just on a pallet somewhere. I was like, oh, okay. I want to check with them. Can you give me like any of the information? And guy would give me like 2 digits off. And you call CGC. It was like, we wouldn't give you that information, but we could tell you that's not one of our numbers, that type of thing.
Oh my God.
Call them another time. Nobody picked up the phone. Finally, I got somebody on the phone and they were like, oh, well, the artist lives in Hawaii. And we shipped the books to him. And I know that he said some were damaged. So we're sending more to him, which to me just sounded like a load of crap.
Right.
So long story short, I happened to be at Dave and Doug Bratton's comic book garage sale. And I was talking to Aaron from AAA Comics, or AA Comics, excuse me. And talking to him, I mentioned it. And he's like, well, Nakayama, and this is still, I think this is about the time Nakayama was starting to get really popular. He's like, try to message him. He's a really personable guy. So sure enough, I messaged him and that lady was right. It's like, oh yeah, no, I received a bunch of damaged books from them. He's like, but they just sent them to me. I'm going to make sure I have this sent to you and I'm going to tell them to mail it out to you like right away. Sure enough, less than a week later, after a little over a year, this arrived on my step.
Nice.
Wow. That's
what
cool.
What a great dude. What a great storm cover.
So it's like, yeah.
That is an awesome cover.
Man, where's John's Comics and Kids when you need them?
And it's nice that he's got that little blank space there for the signature too. That's kind of
well. That
cool.
Was one of the major reasons I said, yeah, let me go ahead and go for this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't deal with Unknown a heck of a lot. When I do, it's because of his Hellfire Gala variants, and I'm kind of, that's one of the good things about the Krakoan era ending for me is that okay, there's no more Hellfire Gala, so I don't necessarily have to deal with them anymore to get them.
Nice. Well, it's tough because during that period, it was like I had books that were gone for 15 months before I got them back.
Yep.
Yeah, but like, what it is? It was like, let me call them, and that they're lying to you, but you can't really just say, hey, I know you're lying.
You can't call them out on it.
Like, it's not us, it's CGC.
Because you still want your book.
Yes. So I'm going to take a break from Marvel for a minute. I mainly, if you haven't guessed it already, a Marvel guy.
Right.
I do read, though, I did read at one point a whole lot of DC. My pull list is getting smaller and smaller with both big companies. When I got back into the comics after taking a break, I wanted to make it a point to get into some more DC. I was collecting Batman. I probably have like 20 years worth of Batman books, but I wanted to poke around a little bit. And I'm going to pick up a couple issues here and there. And at the time, this crossover Identity Crisis was just coming out. I read it. I enjoyed the series. I know that that's not particularly well looked upon one by a lot of DC people, but I think it holds up. And a couple years later, when my LCS was moving, you know, they were doing one of those, hey, we're going to sell some stuff at a cheap price so we don't have to haul it. And I wound up getting the hardcover of Identity Crisis.
Oh, nice.
I never did read that one.
I mean, look, I like it. I can understand if you're a DC diehard, where you'd probably think some of it's cringy. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
They got so many crises.
But that's not where the story ends. So going to Garden State Comic Fest again back in 2016, I made sure I had this in my bag because the artist Rags Morales was there.
And, nice.
Snagged
that's
a nice
perfect.
signature.
Ooh, nice.
2016.
Yeah.
That's cool. And it's nice with the silver marker on the black background too. That's
oh
nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think he was kind of surprised to see it. He was super nice, and I was like, "Yeah, this was great."
Can't get that graded.
There you go. You know what? I have it up on my shelf for me to look at, and that's good enough for me.
Right, nice display piece. You can open it up. It's a talk. You can talk about it.
Plus, you got to talk to him and you got him to sign it. So that's better.
Yeah.
Mark is on you tonight, Steve.
Yeah.
Did you do something to him?
No, just every time we go to the cons and stuff, like I spend all my time down the creators aisle there getting signatures and talking to the artists and the creators. That's what I do when I go to these cons. I spend very little time actually digging through the books.
And Mark's there the day before. They're telling them to charge you in US dollars.
Helping me spend my money.
I figured it was a Canadian
Steve, you
thing.
should get this. This looks great. This is neat. This will look good in your collection.
I figured it was a Canadian thing. Mark was like, there can only be one of us.
Right.
There can be only one, the Highlander. No, he's the Night King, so he's the leader.
Have you ever had any uncomfortable experiences with artists or with talent in the signature alley or whatnot?
No, actually, no. I've never had one. Everybody's been cool. So you got one in mind, though, right?
I do, and I didn't show it. I'm not going to say who the artist is. It was a Wolverine book from my youth, and I waited to get it signed. It was actually the first Wolverine book I bought, and I don't know what the preferred nomenclature is, so if I offend anybody, we'll blame Gary. He had a little person with him, and they were reading a magazine. Like they were, I'll say this, they were like tucked in a corner, but they were also kind of like, you had Archie people to the right, and I can't remember the guy's name. I know somebody here will tell us. The guy who created Ghost Rider was like right next to them because the movie had just come out, and he had a little sign up that said, "Hey, I created Ghost Rider. If there's a big movie and they didn't give me anything, I'll sell you my signature," that type of thing. And here was this artist and this little person reading like the filthiest porn mag you could think of right on the floor.
Great.
Like,
wonderful.
Yeah, like, hey, if you look close enough, you could see what this girl ate for lunch yesterday. Like, and I was like, "Hi, can you sign this, but just with your other hand?" I don't know.
The one that's not sticky.
Yeah, like I kind of wanted to talk to you. Now I don't. You know, I think you feel.
Yeah,
the
now
same
that's
way.
an awkward situation. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't wait till you got home, or at least go in the back.
Like,
somewhere.
you think they would have that like monitored there, right?
Well, and look, we'll say this was before. This was like, when did Ghost Rider come out? Like 2006, 2007, and it wasn't. Like, I'm not saying they were doing that right there, but like, again, you got the guy who is signing Archie next to you, another guy who is like, "Hey, I'm gonna die soon," and Marvel didn't give me any money. To the left of you, you're like, "Hey, let's do an anatomy lesson."
That's a hell of a situation there. I've never come across something like that.
I'm guessing you're either talking about Gary Friedrich or Mike Klug.
I think it was Friedrich.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the con?
That was New York Comic Con, one of the New York Comic Cons.
Okay. Well, that explains a lot of it too.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, sir.
So we'll go from Swank to the next one here.
All right.
This is one of those books that represent a run for me. Now, I probably should have talked about this as my extended book, but we're here already, so I'm sticking with it.
There you go.
This is an overlooked X-Men run, and I'll be honest with you, this is from a time when in the early 2010s when Marvel was like, hey, we need some money. Just throw some more books we don't care about out there. Without going into too much detail, I was going through a really rough time. And I'm sure that as collectors, we've all been there. And it was one of those things I was like, I just want to go home and play video games and read comics and just forget about the world for a little while.
Exactly. Just drift away.
Yeah. And
decompress.
I don't know if it was just because that was in my head or just because of how wonderfully this particular run on this book was written. But this run of Astonishing X-Men, I know, big surprise, another X-Men, with Marjorie Liu hit me really, really hard. Marjorie Liu's run, I mean, you see Wolverine and Gambit every so often, but she wasn't necessarily dealing with those heavy hitters. To be honest with you, a lot of the more interesting stories, she was working with the B team, the C team, and even Warbird here, who was on the team for 10 minutes, who was like the D team.
Yeah, there you go. They're just grabbing anything out of the woodwork and throwing it in a book.
Exactly. But the way she did it, it was one of those, hey, it's a big superhero story, but surprise, it's really a really personable story. Oh. And I did double check. This particular issue is the one that I read afterwards, and I was just like, all right, I need a minute. And look, I'm not going to tell you what happens in it, so there's a big tease. And no, Marvel's not giving me any money for you to do that. But read it online, find it in a dollar bin, check it out, and hey, maybe you'll hate it, but maybe, like me, it'll just kind of strike a chord in you.
Ooh.
Nice.
Intriguing now. Now I'm intrigued.
I'll say this. Both this book...
eBay.
My
comic shop.
You could probably get in a 50-cent bin, to be honest with you. It's not a well-looked-upon series, but it did make me a big fan of Marjorie Liu, I'll tell you that much. And I follow her stuff.
What issue was that again, Phil?
This particular one is issue number 57.
And that came out around 2010?
2000, I'm going to say probably closer to 2012. It was around the same time that Superior Spider-Man was just starting. Because I know that this is going to sound like I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'll say this story and the very beginning of Superior Spider-Man, before we figured out, spoiler alert, that, okay, he switched bodies with Dr. Octopus. Like at the very beginning, I think there was a whole little mental thing in Peter's head where he was like, oh, it's time for me to stop putting, childish things in front of the things I want. Like it was like that. And this, it was like, it put me on a trajectory, which, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be in the spot I am now had I not read those two.
Wow.
Like, I'll be honest with you, and I'll say to this extreme, I probably would not have been, I wouldn't have been in a spot where I met my wife. We'll say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
The importance of a comic, right?
There you go. I see Mark's question. It's from 2012-ish, I'm going to say, Mark.
2012-ish.
Yeah. And here, if you want to go buy, this is how I figured out when the books get all unnumbered and everything, that comics were $3.99 during that period.
I usually just look at the indicia in front. Indicia.
Well, you're cheating, so there.
Right.
And I'll say this, early Phil Noto artwork, too, on the covers. This is a Noto. Another great artist.
Phil Noto's great. Underrated guy.
Oh, yeah. I love his portrait. I think we talked about it, actually. The portraits he's doing on Immortal X-Men. The portrait variants.
Tracking the prices increases is next level dating.
There you
Nice. Interesting. Why can't I talk this evening? Interesting
Words are
trajectory.
hard.
Congrats are in order.
Words are hard.
It's not that. My allergies are destroying me. But yeah, and I never saw that cover before too, so that's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Finally found it.
And they don't. That's not a character they use a lot either. Like she's underutilized.
Yeah, I don't. Well, here, no, here it is. I think she was actually just for that series because it's not Deathbird, who everybody, the classic
Right.
Lilandra's sister. It's like one of the foot soldiers
Oh, okay.
from the wherever they are. I can't think of the name of it, but I don't think I've actually seen her in a book since Lou's run has ended.
Yeah, my comic shop's got it for $2.50. They got 4 copies of it.
Whole dollars. See, that's
$2.
so you could get it for less than cover plus shipping, which probably more than makes up for that, unless you're buying a bunch of stuff anyway. But go ahead.
Just saying hi to 23. All right, number 9, sir.
Number 9. We're at number 9 already. Wow.
Wow.
This was an X-Men limited series that I also don't hear a whole lot about, but it's a great series. I think this was around, I think it was after First Class came out. I could be wrong. X-Men Magneto Testament.
Oh, I never even heard of that one.
That's cool.
It's a great series.
Mhm.
This is the final issue in the series, and this isn't the best cover. I'll say that. I'm going to tell you why I picked this particular issue in a moment. But this is Magneto's origin story before he had powers. So you see a young Magneto in the concentration camps in Warsaw, and you have this whole very heavy World War II, backsetting and everything. Truly done great story. But one of the reasons it always sticks out in my mind, I'm going to open it up.
Ooh.
In the very last issue, after the main story is over, it's 2009. Here you go. Yeah, so it was probably around the same time as First Class. Greg Pak had a very good afterword, and then this thing just called The Last Outrage, which is the true story. I'm reading it here. It's a true event, I should say, about an artist by the name of Dina Babbitt. She has since passed, who was a child taken into the concentration camps. She was identified as somebody who had artistic talent. She would actually draw pictures of, I think she said, Disney characters, just to kind of ease the children's kind of minds there. And I'm sorry, I'm double checking here too to make sure I don't speak out of line. She actually was picked by Mangala he wanted her to draw portraits of Jewish and African prisoners in the concentration camps to try to make it like there were some sort of genetic and physical kind of discrepancies.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
wow.
She got out of, I think is this Neil Adams art? I'm trying to see. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Yeah, she was released. Yeah, when Auschwitz was liberated, she left, of course, and her paintings were later discovered. And I'm trying to see where it was.
That's
Hold on,
cool.
excuse
So
me.
those are the actual drawings that she did,
I don't know about that.
or reproductions of them.
I would think so, because I want to say, here we go. They were signed Dina in 1944. Eventually, in 1973, museum officials identified the painter as Dina Babbitt and contacted her. I want to say it was in Belgium. I should have probably looked at this before we started that. And she wanted the paintings back from the museum, and they said no.
Wow.
So this was kind of a call to action by Greg Pak to, hey, write to your local senators, write to the president, anybody, and try to help us get these things back to her. And it was actually a big kind of movement that was yeah, I'm sorry, here you go. One of the resulting it was
It
a
was
big
Magneto, the Magneto origin story.
yeah, Magneto. It's called X-Men Magneto Testament. Yeah, this story was written by Raphael Medoff, penciled by Neil Adams, and inked by Neil, together with Joe Kubert. Stan Lee authored the afterwords. So there was a big push to get these items back. Sadly, like I said, she passed away after this was published, and I don't think she ever got anything back. I don't know if her estate has continued with the struggle, but
Wow.
you know, here we are almost 20 years later, and we talk about how, comics are pushing on social issues and that type of thing.
Political stuff.
Yeah, I think that this is a way you can do it, like a call to action, without necessarily saying, hey, you have to think like I think. And
Right.
I have my own feelings about those. I tend to think a lot of people, when they come and they say, well, they're pushing an agenda on me, that's not the case. But here's an example of how it could be done, and how it could be done well to do some good in the world, in my opinion.
Right.
That's
It's
cool.
unfortunate that she never got her work back.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I guess that happens.
Wow. Good story.
Very good story. That is cool.
Yeah.
Now I understand the title, why it's outrage. That makes sense now.
Yeah, but aside from that, again, if you just want a great Magneto story, X-Men Magneto Testament, yeah, I highly recommend both the story and we'll say the after story.
All right,
Very
number
cool.
10, bud. Very good.
All right, number 10. I'm going with another hardcover. Through the powers of the internet, we're going to go back into the way back machine to, I think this was 1996. I was in high school. It was 97, so it was my senior year of high school. I was interested in pursuing art in college, not realizing that would mean I wouldn't have the financial security, I guess, or a good shot of a good degree, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't thought about that stuff, and I was just, I think, beginning the college interview process, just finding out not only who would want to take me, but which schools I wanted to go to. And my mom had pulled a thing out of the newspaper. This is just around the time when we were all getting on the internet, as long as we didn't have call waiting, I guess you could say, because she found that a comic book writer, an artist of esteem, was going to be at our local Barnes and Noble. I went. I was only one of maybe like 5 people there, and I think safe to say, I think there was only one other person who was a comic book fan at the time. And listened to the creator and his wife talk about this book I'm about to show you. I got to meet the creator one more time before he passed away, but this is like probably one of the best books in my collection. And I'll say this, I think I did actually show this on my channel once, but it was so early on that practically nobody probably saw this.
Okay.
So here's my hardcover copy of Facts from Sarajevo, which is a true story as well.
Wow.
And it is signed
John Kubert.
To Phil, with regards, Joe Kubert.
Holy
wow.
crap. That's awesome.
Yeah.
More signatures.
Yeah. And again, I'm reading the sleeve to update myself. This is the story of Joe's friend, Irvin Rustamajik. I probably butchered the name. As he and his family struggled to preserve their lives and dignity during the 18-month siege of Sarajevo in 1992 and 1993. Excellent read. I know that the only other place I've seen this for sale was actually at the Joe Kubert School. I don't know if, for people in northern New Jersey, I don't know if Dewey's still carries this, but it's definitely worth the read. You probably can't get one that's signed anymore, but definitely one of my most treasured books in my collection.
Can
Right,
you flip
that's
through some of
amazing.
flip through some of the interior? Show us the inside.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's have a look at this thing.
Yes, let's see. He's got a whole thing. Try to get to.
I want to see some cool art.
One thing I should say too, I forgot about this. This whole account was based on the fact that while the war was going on, Joe and many of the people in the comic community who knew this guy was the only method of contact they had with this guy was through fax. So he's actually taken the faxes and
cool.
put them right in here.
Reproduced them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go right into basically what they talked about in there.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And I always thought it was kind of an interesting dichotomy. Yeah, here's a picture of a library that was destroyed in the middle of the war.
With another fax, eh?
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting that a guy who, Joe Kubert, many know him for, Sergeant Rock.
Right.
A war-related book stopped, I guess, in his older years and said, hey, this was about a real-life war.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for entertainment. It was,
one that actually happened.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a true account. It's a great story. And one, of course, I highly recommend, or else I wouldn't be showing it. Trying to see if you could see any explosion scenes or whatnot. But
it's nice reading them in that size too. I actually enjoy reading the books when they're that big. It's easier to see it.
Well, I think that this was the only way that this was published. I don't think it was published as individual issues. It was it was through Dark Horse.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are trades like that where it's just meant to be just like that. Like and with that kind of subject matter, I don't know if that would really work as like a monthly miniseries. You just want to sit down and he probably just wants you to experience it in one sitting and just get the message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, with regular limited series, 9 times out of 10, I prefer to either wait until they all come out and then sit down and read them.
Same.
Or, I don't do it as much, but get a trade paperback and flip through it.
Nice, great book. So you've already shown me a few tonight I haven't seen before. Which is
that's
cool.
Awesome.
There we go.
All right, now number 11 with a extended personal story, because you haven't told us anything yet tonight, so I'm waiting to hear something from you.
Yeah,
we want to hear a story. We want Philtastic story time.
I tried to keep everything on the level tonight. Nothing too deep. Keeping it nice and light.
Right. Nothing but fluff.
It's all casual, baby.
That's why we're here. We're keeping the cash.
No, but good stuff, Phil.
This is an example of one of those things where I couldn't pull out the originals, so I pulled out a reproduction. Earlier today, I mentioned I have a book signed by Dave Cockrum. This happened to me at this exact same show. So the first time I was collecting, when I was about maybe 13, 14 years old, the majority of the back issues I bought was with my dad. He would take me to when they had comic book shows like every week. Right. And I think it's because, I wasn't like, I don't know if you guys could tell, I wasn't really huge into sports at the time. So I think my dad was just kind of like looking for that kind of connection other than, hey, it's Saturday and it's our day. Let's just go to a movie where we're not going to talk for like 2 hours. So we went to, there was this place in Paramus, New Jersey. If you're not from Jersey, it's about an hour from here, called Sports World. It was like an arcade and like laser tag type of place. It's not there anymore. Don't look for it. And they, for a while, had comic book shows, and they decided, hey, we're going to have one with Dave Cockrum. So at that same show, as we're walking around, my dad brings me to this table, and he knew I liked Wolverine. And he sees it's like a really gritty drawing of Wolverine. And the guy was selling a stack of these particular comics for, I think it was like $20. Long story short, it was a pretty healthy run of Marvel Comics Presents. I know, Gary, you and I just talked about a more recent volume
right
offline. But this was the original one. And to be honest with you, Marvel Comics Presents around this time became my favorite thing to pick up as a kid, because I thought it was interesting that you read one and then you flip it over and then there's a whole nother story. Included in that run was some early Sam Keith Wolverine stuff, which still has some of my favorite. Actually, has my favorite Wolverine villain, Cypher in that. But included in that was the Weapon X storyline.
Oh yeah.
So
nice.
It's a classic read. I have since bought that particular run a couple times just because I love it so much, and I bought a trade paperback just again so I could read everything all together, which in retrospect for Marvel Comics Presents is probably the preferred way to read a good story like this, so you don't have to be like, all right, flip.
Right.
Yeah. But
I always thought that format was fun too, though, Phil.
Yeah, one of the reasons I think I liked Sam Keith's run in particular, Marvel Comics Presents, is just because each side of the covers was just so interesting, just that style he adopted at that time, not just with Wolverine, but Nightcrawler, Cable, really any character he drew there I thought was interestingly rendered. And look, I mean, the story itself, a lot of people who are much more articulate and smarter than me have said a lot about this, but for me, not only does it mean the origin of one of, arguably actually my favorite character, but just a cool experience that I kind of shared with my dad.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
have a good night, Bobby.
Spec.
Dope.
For the spec pick,
ooh,
I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I have two candidates, and I think it'd be smart if I either let you guys decide or we could let the chat decide if you prefer.
Ooh, this will be cool.
Would you prefer one that's more tied into, I'm going to say, the Avengers in the MCU, or tied into a way that quite possibly the X-Men will pop up?
Oh, well, we've seen the Avengers. Let's go with the X-Men.
Are you sure now? I look like, yeah, I'll answer.
What's
Don't
the chat
forget about
say?
the chat. Yeah.
What's the chat say?
What do the people want? Give the people what they want.
What do the people want? Yes,
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, guys. You want Avengers spec or X spec? We already got Frog Brawler saying X-Men.
See, Frog is going X-Men. Wow, it's pretty.
X-Men. Yep, X-Men. Well, I think we got our vote. Everyone's going X-Men.
Okay. Oh, and Tina said please. So, yeah, if Tina, yes, I got to say it.
Well, yeah, you got to do it now.
You got to do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. The OG has spoken.
Well, yeah, Caroline doesn't even have to type because we know what she's picking.
Oh, no, I know. Milt said no. Mark is undecided. Okay.
He wants to see a DC book.
Rewind a little bit. Manny, I was just talking about you a little bit earlier, buddy.
We told him those weren't nice words to say on a live stream, Manny. Don't worry.
So here's one that I'm going to say this with spec. If you've watched me before and I've attempted to spec, you know that I know zero. I don't think I've been right on any spec, but this is one, if you want to follow me down the rabbit hole, is a cheap investment. I think I actually got this one slabbed already from Shortbox for $20. And there's tape on it, and I just realized that. So this is Avengers number 263.
Okay.
This was 1986, and story-wise, Avengers go into the bottom of Jamaica Bay, and they find the cocoon that Jean Grey will pop out of.
Oh. Okay.
So, look, we've seen Dark Phoenix more than once. I don't know that Disney will try it again, but I mean, I guess that's a way.
Right.
Yeah, like, and that does seem very like, here's the after the credits teaser of a mysterious cocoon found at the bottom of whatever ocean they want to use.
Right, and then you just see it burst out.
And there she is.
TVH, I changed my mind. Let's do Avengers.
Let's do Avengers. I changed my mind.
Yeah.
All right, put the other one up too.
You want me to show it anyway?
Yeah, show the other one.
Breaking the rules.
There we go. Spec part 2.
Okay. So we'll go on our way back machine to Avengers Age of Ultron. One of the little kind of teasers, I've only seen a couple people point out that they never really resolved. After Vision becomes Sentinel, Tony has a different voice in his armor.
Correct. Yeah.
Lady, I hope you're saying show it all for the books, because come on. And if you look, I think he had like an array of, I want to say, like different personalities or something listed. One of them had a word on it for an Avengers character who I think, if they want to, could be shown as early as Armor Wars, whenever that's coming out. And that is Jocasta. So I tend to think maybe Jocasta was that new little voice in Tony Stark's armor that they never addressed again. And look, if you're going to bring her up, Armor Wars is a perfect spot. So I don't have a great copy, Avengers 162, the first appearance of Jocasta, for that reason.
Nice.
Okay.
And look, I don't know that they could do anything interesting with the character. You know, I
Right.
tend to think they're not going to revisit Ultron, but like I said, I think Armor Wars, in my opinion, would be the perfect spot for it.
And we know we're getting a series. So.
Yeah. I think it was supposed to be a movie at first. I'm like, no, we're going to do a series.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well,
I have no
hopefully,
idea.
well, that would seem like a lot to put in a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, now with 3-hour movies, I guess not.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll be honest with you. As much as I want to see that Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, I don't know, even if I where I could just summon the energy to just sit down for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, his movies have just gotten longer and longer.
Yeah. You got to have an intermission in there. It's like going to the opera.
And Lady F says she called it, although I didn't see her call it, but we'll take her word for it.
Okay. I trust her on that.
All right.
Excellent
Good
book choices. That's
yeah,
why.
fun specs.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, look, the Avengers you get pretty cheap. The Jean Grey Cocoon you can get pretty cheap. The Avengers 162, I haven't found one in good shape for a price that doesn't sound agreeable to me. That sounds agreeable rather to me.
But see, I think that's the whole point of spec, right? Is to find something that's currently cheap and let it grow instead of coming on and saying, "Hey, this book's $1,000. I think you should spec on it."
Oh, of course.
Like, well, it's already been spec'd if it's $1,000.
No, that's already done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's in the past.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm waiting to find a cheap copy of this that's in much better shape. I had this in my to submit to CGC pile at one point, and then I think when they were collecting for the George Perez signing, because I think he's on this one, I was looking at it and I was like, nah, this one's not a good candidate.
Oh, well, that's all right. You always need something to seek, so it gives you something to seek, right? You know, as a comic person, you always need something to hunt, right?
Yep. Goals.
I mean, that's part of the joy of being a comic person, right? You always have a hunt.
Well, I'll say this though, with two kids, I'm less hunting and more kind of meandering and hoping I'll just come across like, oh, here's an AF-15 at a garage sale for like $3. Like, I need some of that Matt Woods luck.
Yeah, and as the kids grow, the comics will go less and less and less. But then when they get to a certain age, then the comics will grow.
I can already see like the Dean Martin sketch of of him walking away going, "Sucker."
Yeah.
Well, not Dean Martin. What was the matter? What was it, Dean Martin or?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What, Steve? Come on! I sent you a whole book on him.
The Don Martin.
Don Martin.
Don Martin.
I don't know.
You're talking
I had the singer. I had the Rat Pack guy.
Dean Martin. I'm going the Rat Pack. No. Okay,
yeah,
Don
I was kind
Martin.
of like, I don't know where he's going with this. Is he going to start singing?
No, but I do like Dean Martin. He was one of my favorites. All right, great books, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you.
Especially like the stories, and I like that you brought a lot that I hadn't seen before, which is something I always enjoy.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's kind of the purpose of this show is to see books that you don't see in every other channel.
Especially with damn signatures all over them.
Right.
Yeah, that part was unplanned, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't until I had the 10 together, I was like, oh, some of these are signs.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And but no, fantastic stuff. So we're gonna go around real quick and see, Steve, what's coming up for you, sir?
Tomorrow I'll be doing the Voices Choices for New Comic Book Day. And Saturday, Phil and myself and a bunch of others are going to talk about the Gunslinger series, Stephen King. So this is going to be a whole series of shows that Evil Mike's doing on his channel. And we're going to be reading through all the books. And we got a heck of a group of people, which is going to be awesome. I really can't wait to see the ones that have not read these books before and find out what they think of the book. That's going to be phenomenal.
Now, how long are these episodes going to be? Have you guys... What?
Yeah, some of the books are really big, so we're going to have to do like multiple episodes for these books and break them into parts. You know, so that's, yeah, it's going to take a little while. It's going to be months and months of this, which is kind of cool, though.
And I'll be honest with you, I jumped into this because one of the things I figured, I want to read more just regular books, non-comic books in 2024. And I haven't read, other than his memoir, I haven't read any other Stephen King before. You know, I've seen film adaptations and whatnot, but this is my first time reading Stephen King. Technically, I'm doing the Audible version, at least for the first 2 books, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it depends on the audio.
Oh, Gary, you're muted.
Stephen King used to have his own guy that he would do all of his books, the audio books, and then the guy died and he had to switch it out to somebody else.
You see, and with me, Stephen King was never one of my favorites. I always thought he was okay, and I know people live and die on him. But my favorite book from Stephen King, ironically enough, was his book on writing, which I thought was fantastic.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one I was saying.
His book on writing was incredible. I loved it. I still have it. But I was always a Clive Barker guy.
See, I was never a big horror guy. I'm not afraid of things.
Me either. I just like good storytelling. So you got to have a story that's with it.
Yeah. See, I always liked more Elmore Leonard, but I figured let me,
hard crime
try
guy,
something, jump right into it.
Yeah, well, the Gunslinger is a lot different, though. I mean, it's a sci-fi, it's a western, it's a fantasy, it's a Lord of the Rings. It's just a wild, epic mix mash of all kinds of stuff. So, whatever genre you're into, you'll like some part of the book.
Nice. All right. So, Phil, what's coming up for you, sir?
This is a quiet week for me. I'm studying for my insurance exams on Thursday and Saturday. So other than here and then Saturday night, this will be the only time you see me on YouTube. But I still have stuff I'm trying to edit for like the past month and put up. And hopefully after Saturday, after I recover, I will have a whole slew of new energy and things to do. Yeah, I'll say this.
Go ahead.
We're talking about horror books.
Yep.
Insurance is scarier than any other horror book that Stephen King could write, or anyone could write.
I just think having to read all that dry text is scary in itself.
Yeah.
And coming up for me in 2 nights' time, making her 3rd appearance on the channel or 4th, we have Candace Barbosa on Thursday night. And she's always got great energy and fun books. So we'll see Candace in a couple nights. And then we have Roscoe next Tuesday. And then Thursday we have Garage Geek David. So that's going to be fun there. So we got some fun stuff coming up. I do want to thank the chat. Fun chat tonight. Everybody was involved. I really appreciate you guys coming out. I apologize for my allergies, my scratchy voice. Kept muting myself when I'm coughing. So I was struggling tonight. Thank you guys very much.
You did fine, Gary.
Just don't let it happen again. We'll be fine, Gary.
Right? I know. Your guy already contacted me, Phil. Those Italians, they always got a guy.
Hey, whoa.
Right. But no, great books, Phil. I like the personal stories a lot of cool things that I haven't seen before. Steve, thank you very much for co-hosting tonight. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And everyone out there, you know how we like to end these things. As always, keep it casual.